Okay, we'll call the October 3rd, 2024 Finance IT Committee to order. Is there to approve the agenda?
I'll make that.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Are there any public comments? Deisha? Heinrich?
The renewal is in, we got all the paperwork submitted, so there's really not much moving on our end. It doesn't seem like there's anything out of the ordinary from last year, so we'll see what happens when it comes back.
Any questions for us?
Thank you.
Okay. All right.
Hello.
Yes. we
All right,
have
guys.
Something for us.
Yes, you all have a packet in front of you. This is our renewal packet for the 12-1 renewal. Original renewal, these are our 3 plans that are in place. The original renewal came in at 21%. This is before our ancillary discount. However, I've worked it down with Blue Cross. If you go to page 2, we're at a 9.14% increase with our current plans. The one plan that does have a change to it is that middle plan, which is like the HSA plan. It is going up to a $3,200 deductible, but that's just because Blue Cross has to change all of their regulations with the HSA and the IRS. So that plan is now $3,200, but that brings us down to a 9.14% increase. And again, this is before our ancillary discounts. So renewing the life, the vol life, and the vision will automatically give us 1.5% off of this. And then if we do look at the dental, that will give us another % off. Now, in 2024, Blue Cross has the traditional PPO network, which is what everybody is on right now. They also have the Blue Choice Select PPO. In 2024, it now includes Riverside and the Riverside providers, as well as Rush. So when you look at that, page 3 is going to be the similar plans to what's in place under the Blue Choice Preferred Network, or Blue Choice Select, and that brings us down to a decrease of 11.5% on the rates. Again, not taking into consideration the 1.5 additional we'll get off, so we need the life and the vision, and then if we add dental, we'll get another % off. Now, when we look at that, we think, what's the difference in the networks? Out this way, there is no difference. It's really just up in Chicago, up north. You have, right now, University of Chicago is a network, Lurie's Children's, and Advocate Facilities. If we go to the Blue Choice Select, we lose those 3. However, you can have up to 6 plans in place with Blue Cross Blue Shield. So we could have the 3 that you have now, as well as these 3 through the Blue Choice Select network. Gives employees an option to look at what benefits they want or what plans they want. Does the network work for them, the Blue Choice Select? Great, that's a lot less coming out of their paycheck, and it's a lot less on the company's. So we're looking at that. I also had envisioned do a pay report to see if anybody has utilized those facilities, and they have not. I am waiting for a report from Blue Cross just to see if we have anyone who's utilized University of Chicago, Lurie's, or Advocate Facilities, just so we know. I have moved a lot of groups over to the Blue Choice Select PPO because Riverside and the Riverside providers are in network. You also have the Iroquois Memorial is in network, Carroll Foundation is in network, Gibson City Hospital is in network. Can we think of any other? Houston, it's a pretty strong network. So if we look at that, we would be having some savings there. We have no increase on the life rates, and the vision rates through Blue Cross are guaranteed till 2026. And then dental, I do have attached to that is a dental comparison that shows the 2 plans that are in place with Delta Dental. We have a base plan and then a buy-up plan. And the buy-up plan, the only difference is it does include ortho. And then I am showing a similar Blue Cross plan that includes ortho to show, excuse me, if you guys did want to make that change to get another % off those medical premiums. Questions or thoughts?
So on page 2, renewal increase 9.14 over last year.
Right, over the current premiums right now. And again, we'll get automatically 1.5% off of that for renewing the life and the vision.
And so and then on to page 3, 11.5 decrease
Just
from the 9.14 increase.
from your current,
From the current.
premium now. And that's just changing that network to that Blue Choice Select PPO.
And that's gonna be. 'Cause I talked to Jill about it, one of them that we might be switching from, there's only a few people on it anyway.
For what one? We have like, if you look at the $5,000 plan, there's only 2 people on it. Yeah.
So what I had,
Sure.
it didn't change.
No, I just find it much allowed to make sure a little bit more simple. Perfect.
So what I had discussed with Michael previously was switching over to the select choice and offering just our one other plan that we currently have, which is I'm gonna say it's the second one, but it's one with 100%.
Right.
So I don't know if that's something we wanna offer for and switch to the select choice and then keep the majority of people, they can kind of review and see what they think or like between the two. They pretty much cover everything.
Yeah.
Hospital-wise in our area. There's a couple hospitals in Chicago that it doesn't cover. So then that'll kind of give them an opportunity to do the switch. Next year, we can always go back to 3. Or if you want to just switch to the PPO select choice, you guys do.
I did I checked with Envision to see on the HRA if any payouts went to University of Chicago, Lurie's or advocate facilities, and there were none. I am doing that Blue Cross to give me a report to see if any of those facilities have been used. But if not, you guys would be pretty safe going to that Blue Choice
Yeah.
Select PPO, and if you want to keep a traditional PPO plan in the background, we can do that. Have it there for employees, if they truly want to have that PPO network.
So for now, we could add that free plan.
I can have yep,
And then in the future, if everybody migrates off of the other plans, then we can drop that.
right, and we can have 6 plans. You guys can keep your current PPO. I mean,
Well, I'm confused too, because page 1, bill column is what we have today now. That's called the PPO.
so
Correct.
page one are the 3 plans that are currently in place right now.
That's what I'm saying, but the middle one is it's labeled a PPO. Correct. And then also on page 3, your Blue Cross Select is also a PPO.
Right, there are 2 PPOs.
Okay.
They're just
But we also allow the other 2 columns on page 1 and all of page 2 is choices for our employees.
so page 1 is the original renewal. So if you want to just throw this away, we can, because we're at page 2 shows the revised renewal at 9.14%.
That helps. Good.
Sorry, I like to show what the original came in at and then to show that we worked it down to the 9.14. So with that, we have the 9.14. So if we stay where we're at, this is what we're gonna have with that 1.5 coming off if we renew the life and the vision. And then we have if we add the dental, we'll get another % off this 9.14. Our third page are the plans under the Blue Choice Select PPO network, which is a smaller network than the traditional PPO, which is what I kind of went over up north in Chicago, what providers are not in that network. So if we went with this, you would go down 11.5% from current, but then again, we'd still get an additional 1.5 off, as well as if we move the dental, another % off.
Is Lurie involved with this Blue Choice Select PPO?
No, they're not. Lurie's advocate facilities and University of Chicago are not in this network, but they are in the PPO network.
What, you know how many kids we have enrolled through our program?
I don't offhand, but I can check.
All I'm saying is Lurie, I think, is very well known for being a kids.
Well, and
They
that's
are
why,
kids.
that's why Doug, I said, if we wanna switch to the 3 select choice plans and then keep one of our current PPOs, if anybody needs to or would want to stay on that PPO and have that opportunity to go to like Lurie or University of Chicago, they could.
You do have Northwestern in the Blue Choice Select, you have Loyola, Rush, you have Silver Cross, there are so many hospitals that are in there. But if you do need Lori's, you'll be, from what we know, nobody has utilized it so far. I will know that for sure once I have the Blue Cross report, but if we have that PPO in the background, or not in the background, but if we have that as an option, then we don't need to worry.
It takes 30 kids headache to cause it to go
Sure.
there, so.
And we, like I said, we could keep a PPO in there.
People change during the year or not?
No, you can't. So once you make your last year selection at open enrollment, the only time you can change is if you have a qualifying event.
So for those that have kids, they feel like they need to stay on that traditional PPO, they could.
So your recommendation would be to go ahead and add those 3 plans?
My recommendation would be to, switch to those 3 I keep wanting to call it Pro Select, select choice plans, but keep our, current, Blue Cross Blue Shield traditional PPO, which is what would be now 4044.
Yep. That middle one.
So we would have a total of 4 plans. We'd have the 3 select, choice select, and then we would have the 1 traditional PPO that almost all of the employees are on.
Yes, you have 36, or
36
36.
with families. Most of our family plans fall under that, the middle one, the 4044.
Right.
So that way they could choose if they would like to take the 9% increase and stay on it to have that wider network of providers they could.
You would be at 4 plans then? Because it looks like there's a bunch of them on the 2140, those just,
Or we could offer the 2140 and the 4044 traditional PPOs and offer the select choice equivalents of those 2 and
Okay.
drop the last 3. So then you would have an opportunity to choose from your 2 plans from your traditional PPO and 2 plans from your select choice PPO.
And you guys only have 2 people on that $5,000 that
Yeah,
last third
And
plan,
one of them
so-
is retiring, so.
Right. So that gives the option to say, hey, we have the 2 same plans, basically. One's in the traditional PPO, one's in the smaller Blue Choice Select PPO, but out this way, they mirror each other. It's just when you get up into Cook County, there's the difference. But that gives them the chance to review and say, hey, okay, do I want to take on this increase or do I want to do a decrease?
So, yeah, the more I think about it, my suggestion would be to keep the 2 on the traditional PPO and 2 on the select choice. But again, that's just my suggestion.
any thoughts from the committee?
So I'm looking at on the, well, it would be second page. Well, since you ripped off the first page, it'd be your first page. I'm looking at the first 2, and then on the second page, the first 2.
But by offering that, then those 2 people are.
Please.
So you have 51 people currently on the first plan, and then you have 36 people enrolled, or employees enrolled on the second plan. I don't know how many dependents or children are on.
When you say second plan, it looks like the second line down has numbers on it, like 30, 43, 30, 40, 44. Those are what you're talking about.
Yes, and I'm sorry, I'm talking about, yes, that's what I mean. Yep.
I guess my biggest thing is that we don't get the savings by offering more plans, because we get the 9.14 increase versus
Well-
the other ones are saving.
When is enrollment?
We're doing open enrollment at the end of October, the 24th and 25th of October will be here, but sit down, we talk to the employees and explain the network, I think you're gonna see a lot of employees switch to Blue Choice Select PPO because there's gonna be savings not only with what comes out of their paycheck,
Yeah,
but I mean, that's big and the plans are the same, it's just that network is different. And if they're not utilizing those facilities up north, then it's not a problem.
and then we can reevaluate next year after people have digested it, and we can, if it looks like we can drop the traditional PPOs, we can. But again, that's the community's decision. We are sending out flyers with payroll tomorrow. Making it mandatory for employees to have one of those 2 days so that they can learn about their options.
Yes. We'll have raffles to raffle off as well for those days. Entice them to come. So again, these rates are just, we're gonna get more off of them automatically for the life and the vision renewing. It's just if we do wanna move the dental, we can get a whole nother % off and bring it down even more. So that 9.14 will actually be more like 7.
Do we have, what do we have now? We have dental, vision, all that?
You have your dental is with Delta Dental, your vision is through Blue Cross already, and the life and voluntary life is through Blue Cross as well. So we would just then be moving the dental over from Delta Dental to Blue Cross Blue Shield.
And is it going to be similar?
So you have that here. We have the first 2 columns are the current plans that are in place with Delta Dental. We offer 2 options. One is the base plan, the other is the buy-up plan. The benefits are the exact same for your basic, major, and preventative care. It's just the buy-up plan includes ortho for children. And then that last plan is what we're offering or we're recommending if you were to change to Blue Cross Blue Shield. It gives the $1,000 max benefit, the $180.50 for your preventative, basic, and major services, and then the orthodontia, 50% up to $1,000.
Do they cover the same people, the same network?
The same networks, I can do a network comparison, but yep, they're very similar. In fact, Blue Cross is getting a little bit bigger than Delta. A lot of providers have left the Delta network.
Yeah, I have those. Not just keeping me, but they dropped.
Looks like we need to still offer the 4 plans to, for sure. And what the question is, is that
If we switch
Which
from
one?
Delta Dental to Blue Cross, then there's an additional savings.
There's an additional savings off the medical program.
And their network is getting bigger than the Delta Dental anyway.
and if you got a child, then you're gonna pay a little bit more. Looks like.
Well, with the Blue Cross, is that excluding the orthodontic?
Yep, that includes ortho, the 50%, they'll pay 50% up to $1,000.
So it's $11 more per month if you have an employee.
Well, currently it's $54.93, so it would just go up about $5 a month.
Right, but if we did the Delta renewal, it looks like.
It's gonna go down, right, it goes down if you go with
Their choices
Delta.
are the 48.
But then if you think about giving an additional % off the medical, it kind of outweighs it to where it's a little bit better to go to Blue Cross for the dental to get that additional amount off the medical premium.
Just employee paid.
Yeah, the dental law employee paid. And there are quite a few providers that won't take Delta dental in our area as well as around Kankakee and
Right.
Champaign.
I've moved a lot of groups from Delta over to Blue Cross or just to couple it with the medical and get the percentage off the guardian, principal.
So again, the plan IDs and the ones that are being recommended are what again?
Your,
2140.
the
Yes,
2140, the 3043,
okay,
and then if you go to the last page, it's the 2144 and the 2122.
the plan name on the dental.
Would be
zoning
the,
151.
yeah, that 51, and 51 is.
Say that again?
Blue Cross.
Oh, on your second page, it would be the 2144 and the 2122.
Both pages first. Okay, last page. Just put it in.
Yeah, the dental would be that last column.
Question, comment, motion?
The vision is through Blue Cross Blue Shield, the IMED, it's the IMED network.
When you call the plan 2140, 3043 on the first page, it's actually the second page.
Yes, I'm sorry, that first page is the original renewal. I like to show that so you can see that we worked it down. Might be dramatic.
We already ripped it off.
Yeah, you just ripped that off. I should have done that, started with that, sorry.
So unless there's more discussion, I'll offer a motion that we go with plans MIB PP 2140, MIEEE 3043, MIB CS 2144, MISA 2122, and then on dental, EINLM 51.
There's a second. Any further questions?
Sorry, I was answering a question. So you went with the
The four, the two,
four and then the
two, and then the debt.
got
Barron,
Yes.
Alt,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
Ryder,
Yes.
McGinnis,
Yeah.
Watts,
Yes.
Have anything else for us?
No, we're good. I'll get everything together. Do you guys want me to send out open enrollment materials ahead of time? Emails, we can kind of get it out to everybody, and then we'll be here 9 to 3 those days. We're gonna do raffles to raffle off every day, like we do, just give people to come in and explain everything, and hopefully everyone's happy and we see some savings here.
No, that would be great. Thank
Awesome,
you.
guys. All right,
Thank you.
have a good day. See you later.
Yeah, I've got
Okay,
it.
Bernie was supposed to be here, but he's not.
But he said it's another thing he wouldn't be here.
So the department head. Since Jill's already been talking, well, we start with her. Or do you wanna finish with her?
Early enough. Okay, well, the goal is today to make some final decisions and hopefully approve, if not, send to full board for approval on the budget. Audit is moving along. I sent over a few of their requests on grants. So I really would like to get that wrapped up. Also have, that's probably about it. Those are my main, oh, and ARPA. I've been working on ARPA as well, getting the end of the year report together, so. That's all I got.
Alright, so I've had some turnover in the 911 office. We're gonna go back to May. Had one turn in their resignation. I hired another one. They lasted about 3 weeks of training. And they resigned. It put me into a bit of a bind, so I ended up having to go back and doing a regular hiring process. Elena Anker has been hired as a 731. She's currently working on the radio on her phone, quote unquote, partner. Then I had Candace Sane turn in her resignation as of September the 22nd. So I went back to the old list that I had from the last round. I called one, was unavailable because she had selected another job. Good for her. Then the other 5 that I've called back, I quite literally got no response. So I'm back into the hiring pool again. I've got about 40 applicants. Trying to sort through those, so trying to get somebody in. If I'm lucky, it'll probably be right around the beginning of November, so that person will be kind of ready to go right about the first of the year. The unfortunate parts are the overtime, the time that I spend on the radio, which creates a lot of challenges in there as well. And that's been over the past few months. The Judicial and Public Safety Committee has seen quite a few hours. There was a pretty huge spike there for a little bit, but that's starting to simmer down a little bit. Other than that, there's some other discussion that we need to talk about as far as the joint dispatch budget, but I'll wait for the actual budget conversation before we go into all that mess. Unless there's questions.
Doesn't look like it.
Once I receive confirmation on possible ARPA funds, I'll proceed with upgrading our GIS to the Experience Builder. Bruce Harris called it their REACH program. The software that runs it has sunsetted, so it's, we have to go to this or we'll lose our GIS. With that upgrade, we will have the new spring aerial imagery, the flyover from the March of 2024. So everybody will get a chance to see what the new flyover looks like if you weren't already given a user ID to look at it. Along with that, we will have Julie, and zoning was approved for ARPA to do a zoning layer, so we'll have zoning available on the GIS when that upgrade comes out too, so that'll be a big benefit. And a little bit more on the finance side, the Lovejoy, Milford, Prairie Green, Stockland multi-township has appointed a township assessor in September. It's Bridget Schroeder. She currently works down in the USDA office. Her role is part-time as the township assessor, but we will know with the IGA we had with them ended then in August. So we won't receive $1,800 a month for doing that work for them any longer. So we are still a strong need for township assessors. So anybody who wants to learn the path, I'm more than happy to help them. It's all available on the IPAI website. Belmont and Middleport are the two townships that without hiring in the county, it's impossible for us to do that work. There's just too much involved in it. They're too big of townships for the county. Even with IGAs, even with them paying us, we would have to hire somebody to be able to handle those two townships. So getting township assessors is just imperative. That's all I have.
Which township did you mention that the new, you had a new assessor, was it Middleport?
Middleport has had 2 assessors this year. They cut ties with the first one and the second one resigned.
So there's 0 in Middleport, right?
There's 0 now in Middleport as of September. Belmont, somebody could run. We'll wait to see if anybody runs in Belmont. So, and I know there's somebody interested in doing it in Belmont to go get a CIAO. I think he was just waiting to see if anybody ran to do it first. Process could take up to a year. It's really just depends on the availability of the classes and the person's availability to take the classes.
We finished our second tax installment due date, so we're working on next week to, I think, get a second distribution to all the taxing bodies. And we're still on goal to have a tax sale on October 28th. So, right now.
A whole lot. We're still working on the continuation of the DCFS contract. They would like to do a 2 to 4 year contract, and with the contract expiring around the state's budget time, is June, I believe. So working on that with Jill, working on the continuation of the village contracts. Union will be up this year, so we'll have to get around the table with them. I think that it's been running very smooth. I think Yeoman's and all of the contracts are very pleased with the coverage. We don't have any date for the 2024 Tahoe that was supposedly ordered through Drawley's. Deputy Brennan and I have been working on being able to purchase 2 vehicles with the money allowed in public safety tax for 24 through that Asian owners. If we are able to get these 2 vehicles, we can rotate Lieutenant Warfield's truck, which is a patrol rated truck, into the fleet, and then we'll be able to get rid of 2 of the higher mileage vehicles. So that's the plan. So we're actively working on it. Within that, that's about all I have.
Questions?
We've just been buried with election stuff, so we have early voting going on. Grace period voting will start next week, so that means voter registration closes, but it doesn't really close because people can still come into the office and register and vote at the same time. So that's a luxury that was allowed several years ago and goes up until election day. So people can come into the office in grace period and vote on election day as well as vote in office on election day. So my election vendor is here today doing the testing of the equipment and getting them set for election and ready to go. They will be back to do a public test at the end of the month. I think that's set for the 23rd. Other than that, we've been working on consolidated election, getting in budgets, levies, that sort of thing, getting prepared for next year's extension. We do have the St. Anne School District that I'm still not 100% sure how they are submitting a levy. And they assured me that within the next week or so, they would have a meeting so we would clearly understand how they're gonna be submitting, because what happened is St. Anne High School and grade school basically became a combined school district, but Pembroke, who was part of the St. Anne High School district, did not join that district. So we don't want to double tax the Pembroke residents, and that's what we're trying to figure out how they're going to go about doing it. It's a combined elementary unit school district is what the new school district is, which I don't know that there's very many in the state, but just makes for questions. So we're waiting on that, and then filing for consolidated election will begin November 12th through 18th. So we're still going to be in the middle of the general election because we don't close that until November 19th. So we'll be working in the consolidated for filings on the 12th. So that's about all.
We have to wait.
That's separate on the agenda. I think it's after maybe municipal code.
Okay.
Are you getting many people come in now?
More people have been coming in, yes, and we have started processing vote by mail ballots. So I looked this morning and I can't remember, we're over 100 in the office, but I can't remember how many, maybe like close to 150 in-office voters, which still, I was expecting more. I always expect more.
You got anything?
Just a couple of things. At the board meeting on Tuesday, we'll be presenting a governmental agreement with Champaign County on the Head Start. To be presenting a letter of intent for show bus agreement with Kankakee County. Then coming through the judicial committee will be a recommendation to approve a settlement in the Edgar County watchdog's lawsuit.
What lawsuit?
Sir?
What lawsuit was that?
One that was filed by the Edgar County watchdogs regarding some FOIAs that they had submitted.
anything come up.
Beyond that, I just want to remind everybody, like with the motion that was passed on the health insurance and some of the other things, all that is subject to approval at the board meeting on Tuesday, that we don't jump our guns, thinking it's a done deal. I'm not saying I anticipate any issues or problems, but stranger things have happened in the past,
How much is this lawsuit gonna cost us?
$1,300.
Can we prepay for a discount for next time?
Sad to say, there will be a next time, but there's a probably lost.
That's how they need it.
All right. Any other questions for Joe? All right, we will move on to discussion and action on proposal for updating the county code manual. Who has what I'm on that?
Amanda, did you get that Zoom invite from Crystal?
Did, Jill, are you able to access it on this from your, I can't access my email from here. I don't think so, but I don't know.
Is this the firm that publish?
Okay. You have yours with you here? Go to the Google, please. You're gonna give it to me here?
Yeah.
Go up to the thingy, so I can type. Amanda and I know each other's language.
It's short.
Yeah,
Short word.
you click on the Zoom. Lacey goes, once I got fluent in Jill, I was good. And then sign in, he's got this. Okay. Okay.
Something just popped.
Yeah.
Sounds like workman's comp to me. That's right, you're not employed.
Never. It's all good. You know what the,
I got the second invite to the meeting.
did it come to me too, Amanda?
Yes. Let me go see if I'm doing.
I would check their emails for the passwords.
They just forwarding it to me. I never got the email.
We missed it and she's unavailable, so I'm gonna have to push it off another month.
I didn't get an email from Crystal on the invite.
So she sent it to Amanda and I had her send it to
Oh, okay.
Amanda because I didn't know if I was gonna be here.
Yeah, no, that's good.
So,
It's all good. You just not put it.
What's the need for the
to
committee
present
listen
these
to her?
proposals to the board regarding the updating of the code book. So I reached out, she sent me these proposals, but it's something the board has to look at, not
Right.
me, as far as determining how you guys want to go about getting the code updated and what you want to shell out for money. So, yeah, I guess.
So there's two different proposals. you're saying.
There's two, yeah, one's a complete recodification and one is a, just update of the current code and, updating from, I believe she said it was 2014 to present, but I don't remember for sure because 14 is when the code was updated last time, right? Right, so anyway, it involves, web hosting, different options that the board can look at, but it's all a presentation that I think you guys need to hear from her because I don't know what all of them involve. And again, I just reached out because they were the people that did it. Is she still available?
I don't know. It
Don't
was
know.
for 9:15.
I got an email that said she, if you want to reschedule, let me know. So,
Do they offer any insight or suggestions on topics or all on us?
yes, they would, and they would, I mean, they do codes throughout the country, so they can give ideas of what other counties that they have serviced in the past, updates of what they think needs to come out, what needs to stay. You can use their attorneys to go through and look at the code, like a lot of the things policy and procedure has been looking at. Some of the suggestions will say, we need to look at the statute to have a better understanding on if we can move forward with this or if this law allows, I guess. So that's what their different proposals are. And again, there's a lot to them. But that's the reason why having the Zoom is necessary for them to go over it.
So, you want to keep it in this committee doing that, or do you want to try to do it policy and procedure?
If we can talk with her today, let's put it back in policy.
Okay. And then if there's any updates that can be brought to this committee, then like at that point.
Yeah.
And then if we miss the policy and procedure, well, we can schedule it for here.
It gives us more options.
Yeah. Okay.
Can we, Jackson, since she got, can you send us those electronically?
I can send it to you, you have it, right?
Yeah, I've got
Yeah.
it.
Well, that way we can digest it before if it ever comes to our.
Then you'll know
A little
what
bit.
questions to ask.
Well, how about that?
Well,
That's make me sleep better now.
It's primarily, there's two different prices, so we need to understand what one offers and what the other offers. Pretty much obligated to go with them and get something done. We don't have any option that way. Obviously, we want to have input into the changes that we think need to be made, and added additions or subtractions. At the same time, there's, as Brian pointed out, you have to make sure everything is in line with current statutes.
And they'll bring suggestions to the table.
It's a long process. It's been a long process already. It's necessary.
Yeah.
Move on to discussion and action on ordinance provisioning a rate for recording the deed GIS fund.
Right, so everyone has in front of them the notice and the ordinances that have been on, public display in my office since the 16th of September. It's also been on the website. So we're asking for a $5 increase in the GIS fee. So that's what the first ordinance is, the amending a rate for recorder of deeds GIS fund. So this will increase the fee that is collected on all recording documents from $21 to $26. And then the second ordinance is an ordinance that is required once we change fees to confirm what recording fees will be. So that's basically just adding $5 to the different classification of deeds, mortgages, let's see, non-standard documents, plats, miscellaneous, all sorts of documents that we record. All in all, it's basically both of them are just adding $5 to that GIS.
So what's the recorder special fund?
It's basically like an automation, it goes into automation, the dollar.
Not the Friday night party.
No.
Do you know about how many documents you record every year?
Like I said, in tax, it varies.
Right.
So it could be 3,000, 3,500, but not all of the documents will get the entire $21 recording fee
Right.
for GIS, or 26 if we increase this. If you look on the second to last printed page, there are documents concerning state tax liens and federal tax liens that have a recording fee of $11. There's only $3 that goes into GIS from that, and $2 goes to the assessment GIS, and $1 is retained by the recorder.
And the GIS fund is gonna be used to help with the assessment of.
That's the GIS money, of the 26 that we collect, 25 of it will be going to assessment, basically. I mean, that gives it in a nutshell. It goes to the GIS fund, the fund that Mia talks about that pays for one employee, and then the GIS program for mapping. And it can only be used for those specific things. It can't really be used for much else.
No, the aerial flyover, that money can
Right.
come from there, in
Good.
addition. And to raise this, a cost study has to be done and was previously done.
Right.
Just wasn't a need to raise it at the time of the cost study. So we can't arbitrarily raise it without a cost study saying there's a need to raise it.
Right, and the law that's going to take effect, the recording law that's gonna take effect in January, the county board can actually do the cost study rather than having to do a third-party cost study. So that will save a lot of money if you need to raise fees anywhere.
So we need a motion.
With the fees collected, how many years does it take to build up enough to do new flyovers?
You know, I have not been able to run the numbers on that. All I can say is in 10 years, it was never done. So was there not enough money in there? I'm not sure. I'd have to really look at the numbers, and I haven't had a chance to do that. So
I think it's because they were paying for the initial GIS.
Okay.
That's, So like we raised the fee from $3 that was collected to 21 back in 2014 when we first implemented GIS. And we had to pay for the GIS program, I think. Can't remember how many years that contract was for as far as to pay out every year. That's why the fee got raised as much as it did. So once that got paid off, then any money after that is what was paid for, or what was saved back for flyover purposes, for employee purposes.
So ideally, if money's there, how often do you think flyovers should be done?
I mean, every 2 years would be ideal, so that you can see changes and differences. 4 could probably be doable, but 10 is the amount of work we're going through, trying to figure out all the changes and permits not hold for buildings, and it's a lot.
So is it most cost effective to do one flyover every 4 years versus doing a quarter of the county every year?
You can't, you'd have to do the whole county, we're not gonna divide it up, I wouldn't.
Okay.
The cost, and I don't remember off the top of my head, because it was ARPA funds. I wanna say it was almost 300,000, and that was 2 flyovers over a 6-year period and get 2 change finders. So,
397,000, 100,000 came out of GIS fund and 297 was awarded from ARPA.
okay, so almost 400,000 for 2 flyovers and the change finder, at a resolution of 3-inch for the more populated areas, and 6-inch was what was captured in some of the more rural areas. So I guess we're looking at like 200,000, but I didn't get a breakdown of what one costs, and obviously that will change. So they're expensive. I mean, there's a reason it wasn't done in 10 years, so.
Scott can buy a plane, let's buy a plane.
They're very expensive, unbelievably expensive, and there's no competition, right?
There's just a couple people that do it, but to get the imagery, the quality imagery.
Can you just put a camera on a crop duster? and go?
No, and once we get the new GIS, you'll see the ortho imagery that we're capturing, that we're not just getting the, above the, it's not just one image, we're also gonna have obliques, so we're gonna have side views. I mean, in town, I can tell if somebody has an air conditioning unit,
Put your life on the line for the county.
Any other questions?
I got questions.
I guess we need to do it as 2 separate motions.
Please, yes.
I'll make the motion that
You'll
we
be glad to get out of here.
approve the ordinance 2024 concerning the fee increase for the recording fee.
They're both 2024. Is the second part of that. Do you want to do Iroquois County Board ordinance amending the rate for recorder of deeds GIS fund?
That's it.
Is there a second on that?
Aaron's,
Yes.
Alt,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
Schreiber,
Yes.
McGinnis,
Yes.
Watts.
Yes.
Ordinance controlling recording fees for Iroquois County. Make a motion, we approve the ordinance for recording fees for Iroquois County.
I'll second it.
Aaron's.
Yep.
Alt.
Yes.
Bowers.
Yes.
Schreiber.
Yes.
McGinnis.
Yep.
Watts.
That's both these line items. Okay, moving on to the fun part, discussion and action on fiscal year 2025 budget.
So I emailed everyone, whichever place the updated copies, I had a couple people come in and talk to me about it. And I went ahead and printed off just the first 2 pages for you guys. The first sheet is the overall look at the general fund. Currently at $17,353 in the black, so, that looks good. The second page are the adjustments that, were just, or that, okay, so Michael had asked if I go ahead and, make some suggestions, so those are the suggestions that I had made off of the non-union salary. I cut 2% off of that. And then on the bottom there, you'll see, I strongly encourage again that the committee take a look at all of the funds that are levy funds, because the next step is we're gonna get talking about the levy for, the upcoming year. So, and then part of that includes the numbers that is on the approved budget. So that might be something you guys want to discuss, as well as, I know the public safety fund was talked about and put on the board behind you, but there were no actual decisions made on if we're changing anything or keeping it with the requested amounts that are currently on it.
Well, if we stay with the requested amount, we were in red, right? That's why we did
You know,
Or-
refresh my memory.
we were running a deficit on the,
With all of the requested amounts in public safety, yes, it would be in the red, because there was $450,870 requested from the sheriff, and there was $166,950 requested from joint dispatch.
But I thought we talked about changing that dispatch fee.
right, but we never officially
The
did.
change of the dispatch fee came from the general fund, and that's a transfer out of the general fund to joint dispatch. And that was suggested to stay at the 5% increase that had been previously discussed in earlier years at 5%, which would be 132.3. So that 132.3 is out of the general, that has nothing to do with public safety tax.
I question in other within departments on, just looking at today's, this time of the year, expenditures and what they're budgeting. And I would just wondering if we shouldn't change. I was looking at zoning and planning. They have a budget of $26,000, I believe, for inspections. Actually, this year it's 24,000. I think they went to 26. But so far this year already, they've done $26,800 worth of inspections. So I guess I got questions like that going through the budget.
Well, to give you an idea with that, that's what I like to call a floating line, so we don't really know necessarily, it's hard to project how many inspections are gonna be done in a year. When I spoke with Julie, kind of took an average over the last 5 years is what I generally do, and we took a look at that. Now, going forward, say for this year, since we're already over the projected amount in the budget, then what normally happens is at the end of the year, once all the tax distributions are in and I know what our revenues are, I take a look at the budget and I will make budget amendment suggestions that you guys will have to think about and discuss and approve. So with that being one of those floating lines, we took a 5-year average off of it. You can increase it if you'd like to, you know,
I
but
think we should, because of the
the
cost of
increases of
building
the,
is going down, and so more people might be interested in doing some sort of home
right.
construction improvements and things.
And I also took into effect that we didn't increase the salary for the inspectors, so, that's kind of just.
The other thing too, I don't know if she realizes that she needs to buy all these code books, that I think she only bought 1 copy and she needs to have 3 copies. And that's 3 books, 3 copies, so that's gonna be, whatever, $2,000-3,000, I think. So
Yeah, and like I said, this is a committee decision, so I made sure you guys had everything for review and, you know, if you want to change anything, just let me know.
Theoretically, your cost for inspection should be offset by, the revenue for building permits.
You told me that needs to be revisited, the building permit fees, definitely.
I mean, the cost for inspection should be up, the revenue line should be up as well.
And it's up to us to, we can easily, I'm asking, increase those building inspection fees, the building permit fees, then we don't have to do studies or anything to do that.
I'm not for sure if we don't, I'd have to do it.
I don't know if they've been touched for several years, honestly, so.
Yeah, those are all things we need to dig into.
They got concerns on the budget that they want to bring up.
So on the item still to be discussed, though, number 4, the Regional Office of Education, 98,041, that would be projected for the coming fiscal year. And like, what was it for last year?
I will say here in 2 seconds. It was, for this year, it was, budgeted at $95,281, or $282.
Okay. And
So next year, they're budgeting $98,141.
but when you say they, we're paying for it. This is our,
Yeah, that's their request to us.
Kankakee County contributes $380,000.
and then IEDA, we're currently at 25.
Mhm.
So, this is only my idea, but I would, for that item, leave the contributions to both of these at the current levels and don't increase either one of them. So that's out there for discussion.
I don't think you have any choice on the education.
Yeah, they kept it within the cost. And that supports the Regional Office of Education,
I understand.
so
So,
we
like,
contribute hardly anything compared to what Kankakee does. And it was, I don't.
There's a formula.
Yeah,
well,
very conservative. with
is
the funds, too.
it to discuss, is it here to discuss or not, then, I guess is the question.
Solicited is a discussion.
Is that something that we have any discretion on?
I don't believe so.
Say that again.
I think we've agreed that that's,
That particular line, we don't have much discretion on, it's
Okay,
preset.
okay. All right.
I cannot tell you there's a statute that says that, but that's the way we've always operated. The understanding that I have is that amount. They get their budget approved, I think, by the state, and then there's percentage from Kankakee County and a percentage from there.
The 80-20 type split.
Okay,
And that's basically to fund the office, which then helps them to administer all the programs and do RAC, SALT, the intervention.
so the other comment is still out there for me then about IDA.
I agree with you. I think there's a lot of other places that they can seek revenue for that.
When you look at their revenue sheet, you can see that the county's contribution is at least 10 times greater than the next highest one.
I think some of these financial institutions have benefited by,
By the same token, it's a county government-supported organization. And we're the ones that have historically kept it going. Several private institutions in the county that play a significant role as well, but were it not for our support, the organization wouldn't exist.
Right.
But I agree with Scott, I think leaving it where it is sufficient. even though they want more. I think some of their demands probably need to be reviewed by the organization itself.
Well, they came up with a plan, I think, this year that we were presented with, but it looks like they're attempting to do better. So
Well,
I go with Scott.
what I'm saying is that it's probably a matter of opinion. And I'm very familiar with the situation. But in my opinion, there's some internal improvements that need to be made before they consider doing some of the things that they're doing. Basically, the organization was established to bring new business into the county. And there's been very little of that done recently. In my opinion, that is something that we need to get back to.
So you propose we keep it at funding from last year?
Yes.
$25,000.
Do you need to vote on that or just? Okay. Anybody got any objections to that? You need so. Do something, tweak, I guess. The other concerns that we have.
By making that change, we are in the black, 27,353.
Happy to save money and have money in our bank account.
That's what you want to say?
Joint dispatch. So going back about 3 years, we had a closed door session, City of Watsika, the ETSB in Iroquois County. Had mayor and finance chairs out of all the sides. Originally it was agreed upon 5%. And I had made the statement that this is probably going to be feasible for about a couple of years. Because the ETSB was lopsided on the high side, coming from cell phone surcharge. So I anticipated probably in 2 to 3 years, this discussion would happen. Go back to August. Once we got our budget kind of started up, I invited the county board chair, finance chair, Taggart, to start this discussion along with the city of Watsika to kind of figure these numbers out. The city of Watsika, they have not in total discussed this number. The finance chair and the mayor was there. They have mentioned the numbers to the city council, but there's nothing solid since they don't have to do their budget until May of next year. So they've got some time to kind of figure out some of this and what's going into their next fiscal year. Kind of upset that nobody made it to the ETSB meetings when we're trying to figure this stuff out. And then at the past meeting, now we've got the 5% change, reducing the county's contribution to 132.3. That leaves that budget negative 30,000. There's been no direction, there's been no discussion as to what's going to happen with that 30,000. Roughly 32,000 or 30,000. So I guess my question for this committee is, what's going to happen? What's your suggestion? What's your thought process? I'm not trying to come from this from an adversarial point of view. I'm just trying to figure out this budget as the department head over it and trying to cooperate both the county board and the ETSB.
Can you briefly tell us, because you have two different things working together down there, where does funding come from each and how it affects your budget?
Okay. So I'm going to move away from the joint dispatch budget, which is the Iroquois County budget. I'm going to talk about emergency telephone system board, which is, a lot of people refer this to as the 911 board. the 911 board gets roughly about 500 some odd $1,000 of what's called surcharge. That is, if you take a look at your cell phone bills or phone bills, the $1.50 that comes from it. One of the biggest challenges right now is we're trying to figure out how to get more, because that number has been stagnant since about 2018. And inflation and everything else has occurred. So obviously, as we're all too well aware, inflation is killing us. And without having a change in those funds, really hurts the pocketbook. So what's happened is we're getting approximately $520,000. Roughly about half of that is, over past years, has been transferred over to the joint dispatch. Now, the ETSB can assist in the payment for the telecommunicator salaries. Technicality, they cannot contribute the whole thing the way the ETS Act is set up. So when we've got that, roughly half of that is going to the telecommunicator salary. The other half is spent for the equipment. This is to make 911 electronics, radio systems work and function. So if something goes down, it's ETSB money that's paying for the fix. This includes also new equipment, emergency medical dispatch, servers, so on and so forth. There's a whole list of things that we cannot pay for, but there's a huge list of things that can come out of it. That's a really short version of ETSB funding and how and what they can and cannot pay for.
And that surcharge is the only place the money can come from?
It also includes the salary from the superintendent.
Yes.
Well, there's where we can cut.
Terry, when you said 525,000 approximately, half of it goes to joint dispatch. Then you said half of it goes to employees and half of it goes. Is that half of the half, or is that?
So of the 520,000, roughly about half of that goes to the joint dispatch budget.
And that budget goes half to employees and half to equipment, you're saying?
No,
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 of the
that's
520,000,
Right.
okay, half of that goes to joint dispatch,
Which is the employees.
which is the
And
employees'
the other
benefits and
half
salaries.
That's what I'm
stays
trying to find out.
is the equipment.
To the joint dispatch fund.
And the other half of that goes towards equipment.
We had three halves, and I couldn't figure out how to make a whole out of three halves.
It's new math.
I wish I had three halves, trust me.
Okay.
More money would do a lot better for all of us involved in this situation.
260,000.
So that has my salary and benefits, that has FICA, all of those lovely items which you can see in the actual budget itself. So moving back to the joint dispatch. The joint dispatch is the three primary entities that are paying for a majority of the benefits. Iroquois County, City of Watsika, which is why it's called joint dispatch, and the emergency telephone system. The last conversation that I had, or that the ETSB had, was with the City of Watsika. We were trying to get back to equal shares. Everybody's paying the same amount. Now, so now we've got 132.3 coming from the Iroquois County Board, and that, so that put that budget in the red, nearly 30,000. The City of Watsika, at least at this moment, seems amenable to the 162.4, for easier round numbers, and the ETSB is contributing that. Another item that this committee gets to really work through is also the public safety tax. Year over year, I've been requesting money to come from public safety tax to go to this budget because there's simply not been anywhere else to get money.
Okay, so on the sheets that I emailed you guys, I made, an adjustment. So the 132.3 is from the general fund, which was discussed at last meeting. I made an adjustment to the group insurance line, to kind of counteract for that negative 12%, and also with a job opening, and then, the insurance of two people going down to, or from, like, I don't remember offhand, but employee spouse or children to individual. That makes a difference. And then I also lowered the transfer to retirement to adjust for lower cost newer employees. So I actually balanced that budget at the 132.3 and at the 162,397 from the city of Watseka and 911, and the transfer of public safety at 166,950.
How much from the city of Watseka?
162,
Are they gonna be happy if I
397.90.
contributed more than half?
I don't discuss anything with Watseka, that's all.
They're not gonna be happy, I wouldn't think, with not sharing the burden.
The agreement was they'd be the same.
Right, and the agreement was 5% a year, then, correct, or not?
At the time that the last agreement was made, as Mr. Raymond pointed out, whether that percent is still appropriate might be another matter of discussion. Fact remains, the basis has always been that we would contribute the same amount as the city.
Jill, our stuff on the board here is still somewhat,
It hasn't changed, you guys didn't make any decisions or have me change anything last meeting, so it says, it's still what it is.
would a compromise be to split the 132 versus the 160, so down to wherever it is, 147, and
Ultimately, Watseka needs to understand, yes, they, whatever was made prior was equal shares. But what I don't think that they know or understand is, yes, the general budget puts in 132.3. However, you're asking 166,950 from public safety, and every year I've had to transfer anywhere from 100 grand to 200 grand to make that fund balanced.
the public
So-
safety fund.
Right, ultimately, yeah, okay, the general fund's paying 132, but the county as a whole is paying the 132 plus the almost $200,000 to $300,000 out of public safety each year. So that's one thing that I'm sure Watseka doesn't know or understand or whatever the case may be. We're just
They've been
looking
made
at,
aware of that.
we're just looking at the general fund.
How much,
I think the agreement was the amount that we contribute from the general fund would be the same as Watseka would contribute. I
And
understand what Jill was saying, and she's correct.
and we need to get something in
I
writing.
think that was the framework.
I would suggest getting something in writing and a little more concrete than the understanding was this. The understanding
We're
between,
still contributing more because the public safety is our funds to
Right.
manage public safety.
Right.
Yeah,
I mean, that's the way I look at it.
yes.
I know it's a small amount, but how much is contributed by the towns other than Watseka?
Well, from the towns, that's,
It's not broke up by towns, it's broke up by departments. So from the fire departments, it's budgeted at 23,152. Ambulance is 6,633.74. Riverside is 39,764. And police is 20,455.
Riverside is an ambulance.
so we do have some splits that are coming from the towns and the fire departments, which, thank you for bringing that up. That also comes a bit of a challenge that we've been working through, and every year, usually, we're suggesting pretty much, at the moment, we have ETSBs. So we've got all these towns, the fire departments and everybody, their budgets are the same as the city budget. The challenge that we're having with those city budgets are how much of a split. We haven't changed their numbers in a couple of years now. There's not been a discussion with these police departments, the fire departments, the EMS departments. We, at the end of our fiscal year, when we approve the budget, the letter goes out, pay this. There's not any discussion about how much it's gonna increase to, where it's gonna increase to, so they can plan accordingly. Now, for the most part, because it's salary and benefits, we can, for the most part, plan joint dispatch budget out well in advance of when we start actual budget discussions. So we can have those conversations if the number needs to increase, but these fire departments and EMS departments have small budgets as well. So again, having that conversation, which is something we have not done. I am happy to assist, but that has to come from your Iroquois County.
I think what you're saying isn't completely accurate, Eric. The letter I send out along with those every year indicates that the increases are there, what they can plan for.
Oh, Sheriff, when you negotiate contracts to cover certain municipalities, do you figure into that something to help cover the dispatch?
The sheriff and I are the ones that are negotiating that, not just the sheriff.
Okay,
Yes.
so it is included, and then how is that transferred to them?
How's that transfer?
It goes to the general fund.
Okay,
Is
So-
it based on
so
population?
there
Yeah,
is a
it goes to the
mechanism
general
to
fund under
collect it
Northeast
and
Services
get it
contract.
to there.
Is it based on population of the community by chance, or what's that?
I think it was,
It's based off of whatever was decided when John and Eric sit down with the department. So like take the city of, take like Buckley or Cesta Park, whatever was decided, that's kind of how it was worked into the fund.
The formula that's used is something that could be torn apart and criticized by anybody. It's far from perfect, but nobody's come up with a better one yet. But somewhat arbitrary in nature. For example, it depends on the size. If you had 6 police officers in your village, then you'd be paying more. If you only had 1 or 2, that's maybe not the best way to base it, but that's historically what's been done. And we've looked at a number of different ways of doing it, and like I said, nobody's come up with a better way of doing it. I doubt that whatever way we would come up with would necessarily produce any more revenue as far as funding is concerned, and that's also been a point of contention, because the agencies are operating on a much tighter budget than we are, and they just don't have it to give us.
It's somewhat of a, if they decided not to help, we still have to support type thing.
That's correct.
And so it's kind of a, if you want to have this in the county, we need your help. So.
So is there a line item on tax bill? I don't remember. For 911 or
On the property tax bill?
Yeah. Or is that something
I don't
that's
think so.
possible to do or not possible to do?
I think it's required public safety kind of.
You do pay, you have your townships, so you've got your fire protection district, you have your EMS districts.
But that goes to them, not to us, for funding.
Right. And then some of that money, obviously, and this is where the biggest point of contention is some of that money obviously comes over for joint dispatch. Now, for the most part, that's a fairly nominal number. It's not the exact number, but it's roughly about 1,100-ish from each of those districts. So we're fire districts, we have 21 total fire departments. Watseka is a horse of a different color just because it's not a fire protection district, and the city of Watseka is obviously contributing a much larger number. So that number is divided by 20. Then we have roughly 6 total EMS departments. Let's exclude Riverside since they have their own line item that's contributing. So it's actually 5, again, around $1,100. Percentage-wise, they're not contributing a great number in the first place. They're roughly contributing, fire departments are at 3% and EMS departments are right about 1% of the joint dispatch budget.
Are there any grants available out there that we?
Not for salaries. Salaries are probably one of the most difficult grants to find, and most of those are competitive, and if they are competitive, the federal government's once produced them, And they've already handpicked whoever's got it, they just have to post it just for.
They wrote it for that specific entity.
Sure, sheriff has run into that more often than not for certain ones. Salaries are probably the most difficult. There is a next generation 911 grant for the ETSB to apply to. As we're getting equipment and or services that apply to it, yes, I do submit for that grant, but again, we're not talking hundreds of thousands of dollars in certain situations and circumstances.
Okay, now you say you transfer half of your money to salaries. Is that a hard number? You can't go over that because you said you can't do all salaries.
Well, if you take a look at the ETS Act at the state level of it, technically the ETSB should only be covering the salaries of the dispatchers for emergency calls. If you take a look at the, you'll get an emergency telephone system board sheet at the county board meetings. That will show you how many administrative calls, how many emergency calls we're actually getting. Without looking at those specific numbers, it's probably closer to 20%. So technically speaking, the ETSB should only be paying roughly about 1/5 of the salaries of the telecommunicators. So at $750,000, whatever 20% is of that. And right now, technically, with the 162.4, it's at 22.74%, so right at it. It's not numbers that I'm officially producing in that, because there's still a lot of administrative calls that we get that were actually emergencies. So there's a little bit of wash in here, because there's also people that call 911. They're really not under an emergency, they just didn't know how to get a hold of dispatch. So there's a little bit of washing the hands in there as far as how much is falling where. But even at 20%,
Okay, so we got somewhat of an idea now on how things are funded. And we're at what kind of a deficit, did you say?
according to Jill, right now, 0. After adjustments of benefits, salaries, overtime, right now, right at the moment, you're 0. 1.1 of discussion is the city of Watsika pays the same amount as Iroquois County. So that's going to have some wash in here. That's going to change it, what, negative?
Yeah, it would be a $30,000 deficit.
What would be?
If the city of Watsego, doesn't agree to the 162,397 and wants to be the same as the general fund contribution, which is 132,3.
So I have an idea that this might help a little bit. Yes, Iroquois County is going to pay a little bit more than the 5% increase, but we might be able to get the city of Watseka and the ETSB to all be happier if we wash that amongst the three. But Iroquois County would have to come up a little bit.
Didn't you say, Jill, that though you contribute other monies from the general fund to this, what?
The joint dispatch, no, the,
what was she saying?
it's historically been
Safety money.
approved to
With
take it
those.
from the public safety, which ultimately is, I look at it as county monies. We contribute, well, we're projecting to contribute 132,3 from the general and 166,9 from public safety, and then I guarantee at the end of the year, I'm gonna have to balance that budget and suggest anywhere from 100 to 200,000 to balance that fund.
Can we use the correct number when we negotiate with the city of Watseka? Because if we're given more than the 132
Well,
that we're
that's-
advertising.
That's what I had previously said was, you know, I would like to, you know, I don't know who or what to talk to, or if Eric says he's talked to them, but they need to understand that, yes, we're giving we're planning on giving 132.3 from our general, but we also give
That's what I meant, right?
almost, you know, 2 to 300,000 from the public safety money. That takes away from utilizing that money for county needs. So, I don't know if they're aware of that. I have, you know, again, this is kind of 911 ATSB, joint dispatch is Eric's baby, but.
And I have told them, and I have made sure that they understand that when there are overages, when that budget is going into red, traditionally Iroquois County's been covering that. So they have been made aware. Now, specifically where the money is coming from, that part of the conversation was not there, only because that part wasn't in my wheelhouse and I would have needed Jill to explain that. Now, if it's coming from public safety or coming from contingency, which would be general funds, it's somebody's paying for that balance. And in this case, Iroquois County is eating that.
They got a new finance person recently at the city, correct, Benny Marcier?
Benny Marcier has been in those conversations with us.
Yeah.
So I think it would be beneficial to set a percentage amount of what each entity should have to pay into. After this discussion, Eric's saying, you know, 20% or so from 911, you know,
What's going on?
whatever the county's portion would be and the city of Watseka's portion would be, and then there would have to be some discussion, whatever the salaries are projected at, that's the percentage that they're gonna pay in.
Look at it as soon as I get out the door. It probably is.
So why don't I reach out to Benny
Thank you. Yeah, thanks.
and get a definite idea of where that's gonna be sitting at, and I can email you that information. And then we can have it through the full board.
Do we want to give him, because he's relatively new at this, a spreadsheet of our contributions, whatever bucket they're out of, so he sees that for the
I
past
have a
2
template
years?
that I use for doing salary overviews, I can give him that.
Do
we have-
they even need a breakdown like that, or it's, we give this much money, you guys give this much money?
They've seen that breakdown based on the joint dispatch. I even went back as far as 2013, which is what I have in my back pocket. So they could see the joint dispatch, the actual amounts that were contributed to go in there.
When it comes to dispatching, I guess out of fairness, how much of the dispatching percentage-wise is strictly for Watseka versus rest of county? Is it 30%?
The police, I wanna say it's about a 1/3 to 2/3. So like the sheriff's office is running between 600 and 800 calls traditionally. City of Watseka is running about maybe 2/3 of that, so they're running 3 to 5.
So a percentage of 1/3, 1/3, 1/3 would not be too far out of line.
Some other challenges that we have, and this is part of the reasons why this budget goes into the red. Within the telecommunicators contract, there's this thing called compensatory. So in lieu of being paid overtime, they can contribute up to a maximum of 100 hours at any given time. But they can spend it down and put more in, spend it down and put more in. I have no way whatsoever to, number one, control it, number two, be able to plan a budget around it, because I don't know how much they're going to use and when. So every time I approve this time off, I also approve 7 hours of overtime. 3.5 from the previous shift, 3.5 from the other shift. So when we start talking about overtime budget, not to mention we also pay overtime based on the day. Never gonna change anything. We're probably never gonna be able to change that. Just what it is, it's already on the contract, it's been bargained over since 2018 when that contract got signed up. These are some challenges that are applicable in here that I think this board needs to realize. So not necessarily intentionally outgrowing the britches here, budget-wise. It's an uncontrolled number, and I have no way to plug that hole. Good news is, if it's good news, negotiations will start again next year for those 3 FOP contracts, sheriffs, deputies, and corrections, and then ours.
Okay, so where are we at with it? Have we come up with any solution? What do we need to do for a solution? Are we saying?
Why don't we leave it as is right now at the balanced budget? I'll reach out to Benny and have a discussion with him. And see what they're thinking, and if it does come down to they wanna be at the 132.3, I can make a suggestion, or since it's gonna be negative regardless, we can always amend it as we get firmer numbers and the year goes on. But first steps first is, why don't you just leave it, and then I'll reach out to Benny and have a conversation with him and see.
Okay.
If we can come to some sort of agreement.
If we do that, where are we at with safety tax fund? Are we running a negative on that then this year? How much?
115.
So we're losing ground on it?
Public safety tax is requested 150,000 from the sheriff's department and 166,950 for joint dispatch, which puts us at a total of 617,000. And we're only expecting to bring in 502,000, so that puts us at a negative 115,820. So the flock cameras from the sheriff's request line is 7,500. The Starcom radio's yearly payment is $247,952. The airtime fees and maintenance is $29,739. Patrol vehicles is $150,000, and Central Square maintenance is $15,679. So.
I think that's very well.
So, you could, if you wanted to, take out because I believe it was discussed that the airtime fees and maintenance would come out of the general fund regardless. So we could take those out of public safety and put them in the general fund, because we're currently showing a positive 27,000 in the general fund. And then we would just have to make a couple of revisions to try to get that back in the budget. I mean, that's up to you guys. Or if you only want to pay for, or the flock cameras. I mean, there's a couple different things you could do. It's just kind of up to you guys.
Well, one thing too, according to this, is this still has joint dispatch at 166, causing expenditures of 617. Is it the 132? Because then that 617 should be
132 comes
dropped.
out of the general fund. You're talking public safety now. Public safety is 166,950.
That's the other column, okay.
Yes, there's 2 funds that contribute to joint dispatch that the county has, and that is the general and public safety. So 132 is the general, 166 is public safety.
So the expenses, 617, revenue 502, short 115. But we also have a balance estimated at the end of this year, 1.1
Yeah.
million.
Yeah.
So it's not gonna be empty, but we're going in the
No, it won't
wrong
be empty,
direction.
we'll just run a negative.
The problem
We're
is-
running negative
We've got
balance.
those same expenses for next year though.
Yeah.
And if so, we're going the wrong way.
Plus 5% from joint dispatch. At least that's how it's put.
I guess we're not gonna solve it completely this year. But if we can do something to slow the decline of it by taking one of Jill's suggestions as to taking something out of general fund instead of out of public safety.
$100,000.
Well, even if we, if we don't take 100,000 out, if we take 60,000 out of it, at least we're slowing the decline and then work hard on the next year and start working on it right away and not waiting. I don't know.
Ultimately, it could, I don't know, it depends on what you guys wanna do. You could leave it as is for this year. It's gonna actually be more taken out of public safety, because I almost guarantee that we're gonna have to put money into joint dispatch still, more money into joint dispatch, other than the 166.9, because historically, it's always ran over budget because of whatever money there was with their overtime.
For next year, it seems like this whole budgeting process is upside down. Because this committee or whoever has to try to find the money that everybody wants to spend. Most places I've been to, you determine how much money is available. And you work from there within the departments with the budget amount that they can determine what they want to do with it.
Well, I guess the way I understand it, it's they make their presentations and then we go through and say, you need to cut this, this, and this.
Why can't we go the other way and say, hey,
Here's
this
3%.
department, right, this department, over the last 3 years, you spent $100,000, 5% increase each year, et cetera, et cetera. Next year, based on that, you have $126,000 to allocate however you want. You can give yourself a big raise, you can spread it among everybody, you can buy a new copy, whatever you're gonna do. That's your target number that you need to go with, because that's, we can arrive at that number. Then we're not doing what we're doing now, of dipping into our funds. Going forward, we can't solve it this year.
Right. And I know Jill did a lot of work and made it a lot better for
I know.
things.
But I just haven't run across many things in life where your household thing, you can't go out and buy a bunch of stuff and then figure out, oh, somehow I gotta pay for it. It's like go the other way around. I can spend $100 extra this month. What am I gonna do with it?
Okay.
So, anyway,
I agree. This is going to get into what we do for a levy then. And that will determine what our budget is and.
Yeah.
So. All right. So at this point, what do we need to do? We're not able to pass it.
The only change that you guys spoke of was the IR transfer, everything else. I mean, if I need to know, are you okay with what was presented? Do you want to change anything? And then if you are, you need to make a motion or you need to send it to the full board. So it's on you guys.
We want to hammer out as much as possible here instead of sending it to the full board.
we did do Scott's reduction, correct? His suggested reduction of,
That's the committee's reduction, by the way, not Scott's.
Yes, the whole committee voted on it.
right, okay. And then, so now where are we at? We're in the black by
27.
27,000 there.
53.
And we're dipped into the safety fund by $100 and some thousand.
And your levy, like I have on your sheet for you guys, the previous year and what was requested or needed out of the budget for FY '25 is also listed there. And then there's the differences.
So that third column is the difference in levy amount.
Yep.
Increase.
Yep.
And do you have an idea what percentage that is over the last or current extension?
I don't know how extensions and percentages work with the levy. I normally, in the past, all I would do is make the spreadsheet, or make the spreadsheet and give it to the assessor to review and change the estimated EAV number, and then present it to the board, and the board is supposed to historically do work on it, so.
And be mindful, this was my first time doing it, and just took what the multiplier looks like from the state based on that sales ratio study and applied it to that. So I really didn't have a basis of where that came from, other than doing that.
Have you looked at the other previous, stuff that Bob did, or whoever was involved with Bob doing it?
I mean, I did not compare the sales ratio, like the approach I used compared to his. I did look at his increases and looked at what my increase could be. Obviously, what we've seen the last 2 years, the sales prices of the houses have raised, that's increased our multipliers. So this is a little bit higher jump, but so is our overall multiplier this year at the county level, so. Once I have a whole year under my belt of kind of understanding it all, maybe I will have a better idea next year, but. Yeah, and I'm looking at EAB, I'm not really looking at the extension part of it, so. I deal with EAB.
John pointed out the levy will be done by tax committee.
This is what I'm talking about, maybe we're not on the same page, and
No, I gave the number to Jill, but I'm just
so I
saying.
can't figure out, like, there's too many numbers that, when you say that, I don't know what she's saying.
And all I'm saying is essentially what I do in the assessment office is the assessed value. That number is with tax rates applied, the levy amount, that deals with more than just my office, is what I'm saying.
Bob came up with this, I think somehow, or maybe with Jill's help, he came up with a high and even low. Right?
All I do is do the I put those worksheets together based on the numbers that come off the tax computation reports from previous years and the approved budgeted amounts for the upcoming year.
Right, and the tax
That's all I do.
computations don't come from my office. So what I did was took the percentage that we're gonna raise this year based on that multiplier and applied it to last year's number.
So I guess that's what I'm trying to find out, where does that, what piece of paper is that number on?
What number?
That's what I said.
The number that we're talking about in estimated revenue, I think is what we're driving
Yeah,
at.
so that's, the number that you gave me is what I put on the sheet.
And what
And
sheet
she
though, I
just
mean,
explained how she came up with that. So I
what sheet,
just-
where I'm trying to catch up with you on, one of these two sheets you're saying?
No.
No.
It's what was presented last year to.
Yeah. I don't know if I'm answering my questions, I'm confused. Are you asking where I get the tax computation reports? Those come from the clerk's office. And it's basically what was brought in from the taxes.
Right.
I just get the finalized recorded report from Brian before I fill out those worksheets so I can verify the numbers that I was given from the treasurer's department.
What it comes down to is there's a bunch of departments that all contribute a little bit, and then the board is supposed to take all those numbers and be the experts on it. And
I
that's
mean,
where
the
we,
levy goes to tax, so the tax committees will be the ones overviewing that or reviewing that and taking a look at that. And then you guys are at the budget, so.
how would you like this handled? Just let it, is there something else we need to do before that needs to be done today, and so we don't have to do it at full board?
The best thing is if you have a budget, a complete budget ready to go, because there's likely to be a lot of discussion out at the board anyway. I do think one of the things that I think at some point in time, this committee is gonna need to address is the fact that each year you look at your anticipated revenue and your anticipated expenses. Well, we have a balanced budget. Normally, at the end of the year, you have not spent everything in that budget. The excess results an increase in the general fund. We've identified that the balance in the general fund probably isn't high enough. It's supposed to be like a rainy day fund. But I think this committee needs to establish what that target is. Because if you keep increasing the balance in your general fund, at some point you're either gonna say, let's operate with a deficit budget or find some other way to manage that. That probably isn't appropriate right now this year, but it's something you need to keep in mind going forward, because it's critical in managing the county's finances to keep that picture up there and operate accordingly. And when you talk about public safety monies and all these other things, it's all part of that. But obviously, to me, in the past, we've always been able to come out of this committee with a budget ready for the county board to approve without any haranguing or.
And this will be approval for public viewing, so final won't come until November.
The November meeting, but we have.
But if we make any major changes, then it would have to go from viewing again.
So,
It really sounds like the main point of contention today is City of Watsika gonna pay the same amount that we contribute from the general fund or not.
And if they don't, then it's gonna be a $30,000.
I can tell you that when we had some of these meetings a few years ago that Eric was mentioning, there was considerable concern voiced on the part of the Watsika mayor and so forth that, hey, how about the rest of the county government's contributing money as well? Why should Watsika be the one that has to manage the county? So there's concern, to me, even though they agreed to do it, it shows there is concern on their part as to how much they're paying. So I'm surprised that Penny would tell you he's gonna give you $162,000.
I guess the way to do that is if there's a way to break down where the calls come from and say, okay, Watsika has this percentage and these guys have this percentage, and then just
We can't make that.
There needs to be a better understanding, I guess, is what we're saying.
so I've got a suggestion. Rather than Iroquois County only putting the 5%, I'm just doing this as an equal wash across all three of us. It's a discount from the original. So we've got the original at roughly 163. I'm proposing that ETSP, City of Watsika, and Iroquois County put in $152,365.26. That is with Jill's adjusted numbers already in there for salaries, benefits, all of that. Still puts it at a zero, technically negative 1 cent. And that takes care of the deficit that originally when I was speaking, that's back to a zero. It just washed it across all three. The good news is, from the original number that we had already spoke with City of Watsika, it's roughly about a $10,000 difference to the benefit. So when it's being presented at 163, now it's down to 152, probably got a much better buy-in.
So how are you lowering everybody's cost and covering a deficit?
So I'm lowering the cost because benefits, salaries are going to go down. 152, 365, 26.
How are you doing that?
65 insurance, health insurance.
I had already adjusted for health insurance and retirement.
The salary.
They have two, well, you're gonna have 3 employees that are gonna be a much lower rate, I mean,
For this year.
2.
well, Annika and then one for. Okay.
Okay, so continue.
She was his replacement. Candace, I still haven't hired that.
His numbers for salary include the guesstimate on
Everything.
So what I did, I adjusted all of the, Jill had already made all the adjustments. I just included those adjustments into my number, which obviously brought the amounts actually down. So instead of $740,000 for 744, now the total budget is 714.
Okay.
Left all the rest of the numbers for fire departments, police departments, etc. Left the public safety tax as it is currently,
Which is how much?
the 166,950, which is up on the board already. I did not touch public safety tax yet. And then took whatever the remaining balance was, divided it by 3.
So
So you got basically 40,000, or
Basically
roughly
you're-
about 30,000 worth of changes because I have employee changes and the benefits.
So after you take money from public safety tax, then you're dividing it by 3?
I left the public safety tax at the 166,950, and then the remaining amount was divided by 3. If I divide it by 4, everybody pays roughly about $1,000.
So with Eric's suggestion of 152, 365, 26, and the 166, 950, the county's paying $319,315.26. And that's if there's no overtime adjustments. So then ETSB would be paying 152, 365, 26, Watsika would pay 152, 320, or 365, 26, and the county ultimately with the 2 funds would pay $319,315.26.
Yeah. So why are we lowering theirs if we're already paying almost double what they're paying? You said by doing that, you'd lower theirs by $10,000. And I assume lowering the ETSB by $10,000.
Correct.
So you're basically shifting all of the 30,000 on, well, actually, you're shifting more than 30,000 onto the county.
Another alternative, I mean, okay,
We went from trying to close a deficit to giving 2 of the parties less to pay and us more to pay.
well, as far as the general fund contribution of the city of Watsika, the goal is to keep them the same because of agreements. Now, whether that was a handshake or if it's a paper somewhere,
We're not the same, because,
when you include the public safety tax.
right, which comes out of our pocket. So if you want to make it the same, you're actually looking at over 200,000 from everybody.
208,
Yeah.
and that's with putting 0 for public safety tax.
So, I mean,
This number that you got from the city council voted to approve that number? or
The city
that-
council has not approved that number. City council has not approved that number at this time. That is, so far, they've gotten an opportunity to at least know about the number, that there is an increase, but there hasn't been anything
Okay, so
as far as agreements.
their budget is when? It's in the spring?
First.
So what budget are they working on right now? What is their dollar amount that they're working on right now?
In our FY '24 line item, which was projected to be $120,000.
So $10,000.
Excuse me, 126.
So they're spending $10,000 per month, so what do we got? Was it May that they knew their budget, or?
Their budget year starts May 1st, so they have the same requirements that we do. Usually about February, they'll probably start the actual conversations of budget, work through all the details, have it for public display late March. Get through April, approve it.
So basically, we're looking at approximately 8 months of them contributing $10,000 per month. And after that point, then for the rest of our budget year, we might be able to get an increase, but that number is hard and fast because that's what their budget is. So,
We're always gonna be behind.
right. And that's why we,
Well, it depends on what point of the year they can make their contribution. They're not making much.
right, but on average, that's. So, and I know this year we tried to have a number for them at their budget time. Apparently it was lower than it should have been. Or did they
No,
not
we agreed to the
contribute?
5%. We agreed to the 5%,
Okay,
and now all of a sudden the budget is way above that.
That's part of the conversation piece that I started with when they were talking about that 5%. I'm like, yeah, that'll probably work for a year or two, but it's the feasibility for the ETSB to pay such a greater amount. It's not working out very well, and this is now we're having this conversation now.
That's not working out for anybody. Just the funding is back to the $1.50. It's just,
with no other mechanism to raise funds other than,
There's talk at the state level with that, with the Statewide Advisory Board, which deals with the 911 side of it. They're pushing that agenda, but there's been talk of multiple different numbers out there. $3 seems to be a big one, which is double. And then trying to figure out cost accelerators for inflation and that, and how that's going to handle. The carriers are going to push back on a lot of that, so we're going to see some lobbying in there. But again, trying to get the state to increase taxes is going to be a challenge at its best. And quite literally, most of the talk is, if it's 50 cents, be happy with it. If it's $1, be happy with it. You're probably not going to get to whatever. I've already tried to push that agenda to go, have we, as a 911 community, figured out what do we actually need? Because there are certain areas, they have got the population, they don't necessarily need the extra. But there's certain areas, and we are one of the epitome of examples of, we can't pay for everything with our surcharge. Just our salaries alone for the telecommunicators already outstrips the surcharge. But I digress, we've got a.
okay, so. I don't have a calculator. We were at $30,000 deficit, is that correct? When we started this conversation?
Based on my numbers,
No.
but Jill changed that because there was changes in salary, benefits, and she got that to a 0.
And that's assuming that Watseka will pay how much more?
162, 387.
More or total? So they were doing 150 now, so that's a $12,000. Am I thinking right?
26.
Do you want me to change it to the 152, 365?
152 or 162?
152, 365, 26 is what they're talking about.
Split, and that's the split in the third, why us paying us more.
No,
Right. Don't do that.
no, we,
Problem though too is the city's partway into their year of paying
Right.
126, so where is that catch up gonna come from?
well, that's where, yeah, it would
It won't.
basically have 4 months or so between their budget starting and our budget. Well, five, okay, so,
So that's,
you know,
yeah,
it's a,
$30,000 a month shortfall. Right? No?
When do they pay it?
I don't know.
I don't know,
That's what, well,
when do they pay it, Jeff? Is
if
it-
they're, for the coming
Pay it
year,
quarterly.
their budget starts in May. So in June, they give us a check for the 152,000. It isn't a monthly deal.
Right, but I'm just,
Well, this year, I'm saying, for this year, they're giving us $126,000
Yeah,
check.
well,
I'm just trying to
if you look
figure,
at, if you look at the reports from the treasurer's office every month, they show a deficit in the fund. And that's because there's some contributions that are lagging that need to come in order to make ends meet.
I'm just breaking it down 5 months since our budget years don't match up.
I know, but I don't think that's appropriate. That's what I'm trying to say, is because it depends on when you pay the bill. I
Well,
believe Watsika's already paid their 126,000 for this year.
right,
Next year, that's, and I don't know if they're, I'm just saying June, July, August, whenever it is they decide to pay it, the coming year, will factor into our budget. They'll pay it before next year, before December.
Right.
okay,
You're
so,
always gonna have, if you're gonna keep having amounts that vary, you're always gonna have that imbalance because of when the budgets kick in.
with the numbers you have, Jill, with the balanced budget, where does that,
Without changing anything, you're still at the 27,000 in the black. If you were to take their suggestion and put everybody at 152, 360,
we're not gonna do that.
okay, then you're at 27,000 in the black.
Yeah, we're not gonna lower their contribution and raise ours, we can't afford it. We can keep them where they're at and negotiate for next year's budget for them. But if they've already, you know,
And ultimately, if City of Watsika comes back and says, no, we're not gonna do the 162, we'll do whatever, or we'll do, you know, obviously it'll be lower, then that difference is gonna have to come out of the public safety tax then.
right, but if we go into it saying they can pay less, they're gonna pay less. We go into it saying that they've gotta pay at least as much, and we need more really, that.
You wanna keep their discussion at 162, 397.
Okay, Eric. That's to cover our current cost. What should we actually be at? Because with the offset budgets, we're going to have to ask for something maybe more than that to help cover us. I mean, this will get us through now, but we need to start discussions now.
Well, the problem that you're gonna be faced with is we're going into negotiations next year.
And when are those up? Or, I mean, we never
Those
know when they're
contracts expire at the end, at November, in the next fiscal year.
Usually reach out July, August.
Well, I think
Or we could
this
do-
past one, we tried to ask probably around the May, June area,
Yeah, we did.
and
But it's usually like July, August before we get an actual meeting in.
so we're still
They
gonna
don't reach out with early openers, we're the ones always approaching the unions.
Of course. There
We
were
also had challenges
last minute
with our-
things like put pressure on you.
We also have challenges
Guess
with
that
our current
depends on
attorney.
the negotiating committee.
What's your question, Scott?
My question was, I find it odd that the union isn't reaching out. It's immaterial to the conversation, but I just found it interesting that they weren't the ones initiating negotiations, that we had to reach.
Yeah, they do. FOP is very good. AFSCME
Well, that
usually
was
runs
what I
really late. I'm sorry.
misunderstood.
No, you're fine. I misunderstood.
It can be by either party.
Sure.
If we find that the union is, there's been times when we've said, hey, come on, let's get going.
Yeah, FOP is usually right on task, but it's, AFSCME that's a little. Yeah, and that's a good question too. What are we doing? I mean, not that it makes a bit of difference, but the negotiations attorney for next year.
That is up to the state's attorney, so at that, I guess we talked to the new state's attorney on this.
Just something to keep in mind.
That would be a poison.
All right, so if we go with Jill's numbers, the budget is balanced, knowing that there will probably be a problem later down the road. Unless a miracle happens and people start spending tons of money within the county raising our revenue.
Jill, what John alluded to earlier about our projected revenues, do we have any clue? This year's projected revenues, are we hitting that target number or are actual revenues below what we had targeted in our budget?
I know Kurt reported that the second distribution was done, but it's not completed. I can't see those numbers yet because they haven't finished doing the steps that they need to take to have them inputted into our accounting software. So with my projections and kind of taking a look at what they have brought in, it seems to be that we're running a little bit over of what we projected for last year, or for what we projected for the year.
Right. And when you say a little bit, I mean, is it
Like
5 digits or 6 digits or?
I would say 5, but high 5.
Okay. I'm just saying that helps in
Right.
leading down the road, like John alluded to too, is that will help our general fund balance going forward and then.
Okay. So how do people feel about going with Jill's numbers and having it being a balanced budget in theory? It's always what it is in the theory.
At some point, I just have something I'd like to mention for my office. Must have missed my opportunity to do it. So just, if this is my opportunity.
This is your opportunity.
So I would, my chief deputy, I had asked for a salary. It fell well below that. I just found that out from Jill today, and I just would like to ask this department or this committee to look at the responsibilities that my chief deputy has to take on in my assessment office.
What is
And the fact that the structure in my office is the 3 deputy clerks report to the chief deputy.
What is the name, please? What are you talking about?
For a chief deputy, I haven't named anybody yet, so I'm just talking
What are
the
you saying?
position.
I'm lost on what you're saying, it fell below. What?
So what she requested was $38,000 a year for a chief deputy, which, give me one second, which equated to, which equates to about like $20.88 an hour.
And what did our previous chief
Taking a
deputy
look,
make?
it doesn't matter, taking a look at other chief deputies, that we currently have and what the suggested starting salary was of $18. Kind of discussed with Michael to put that at $18.45 to start or promote the chief deputy in FY25.
And that's pretty much
So-
across the board?
Yeah, That would cover her promotion to a chief deputy, finance promotion to a chief deputy, and, the newest chief deputy in the treasurer's office, who was hired literally a couple weeks ago. So,
And my point is, I'm just trying to ask you to consider what the job responsibilities are for my chief deputy. That there's gonna be 3 deputy clerks that will report to her. Right now, I've taken on all of this burden. And at some point, that needs to shift a little bit to my chief deputy. There's a lot of responsibility as far as reporting things to the Illinois Department of Revenue, making sure assessments are correct, getting things equitable. And I'm just asking you to consider, yes, the titles are the same, are the responsibilities of what we're asking this person to do versus somebody else the same? Essentially, John and I talked about this the other day, the chief deputy should be able to fill in some capacity to a department head and do some of those duties. That's a lot to ask of my chief deputy in my office. And the skills and the high-level skills that are required to perform that, it's a lot and it's stressful. And I just would like this board to just kind of consider that, not necessarily, just consider what their responsibilities are and not just the job title for chief deputy of the assessment office.
so to give you an idea, our highest paid chief deputy is the only employee of the state's attorney's office that's not an attorney, and her salary is $24 an hour, and she's been here over 20 years in the capacity of a chief deputy for the last, I think 10. No, I've only been here 7, so the last 7. It's kind of what Michael and I discussed as far as salaries for a chief deputy. I'm just giving you the background information and what was discussed. It's not my decision, it's yours.
No. It's,
So we currently have her at 24, and we have, the second chief deputy, which is the circuit clerks, at 22. The courts, I'm sorry.
How's Amanda then?
What?
I know Amanda doesn't have the title of chief deputy, but she's the second.
We like to call our office the magic office, where everything just gets put in there
Right, but I'm just saying, going through the personnel here, I'm just trying to see second in commands as the chief deputy, you're saying, right, Mia?
I mean, that's how I'm referencing it.
Yeah, Amanda's at 25.84 currently, or 25.85 currently.
But it looks like
I
that-
suggested her to go to 27.
Oh, I got my,
66.
this paper's at 28.43, so I must be missing this paper. Okay.
You're not missing, the changes I didn't necessarily put in the same format. I put it in more of a dollar amount, so projected to
How
go
much?
to 27.65.
How much are you asking to go up? Then I'm so confused with numbers now.
I'm not looking at it, and again, I just saw from Jill today that it was well below what I had requested. Jill can better answer that question.
She requested $38,000.
What was it?
And I compared it to what my previous, so I didn't know how it all worked. I compared it to what my previous.
What was the number in the budget then, Jill? If she's asking for 38, what was the number in the budget?
33,579.
So up $5,000, $4,000. One thing
And
else.
I'm not suggesting that, I'm just suggesting more than 33. Like, I'm suggesting you take into account the job duties of what my chief deputy has to do compared to another newly appointed chief deputy maybe.
One thing in general, I'll say or state, being on the negotiation side of things just one time, how it seems all the other employees know how much we raise anybody and they think they should get that same amount. So when we go above 5% for anybody, boy, the union people catch on to that and they think their whole crew needs the 5%. So we just need to be aware of, you know,
Sure, and
just
again,
raises, if they're
this
merit
is new
raises,
to me,
it's
I'm
fine.
not sure how it all works,
Right.
I'm just
Just saying, you
That's where-
see our budget,
We'd love to pay everybody more, we just don't have the budget for it.
but I think a chief deputy,
Yeah.
I would also think,
When I discussed it with Michael, we're kind of taking a look at, you know, that was your request and what everybody else was making and the fact that you don't necessarily have somebody in mind quite yet. And I guess, you know, to kind of go over, we don't really look at we didn't look at responsibilities, we were looking at what the dollar amounts were across the board and, took it from there, so.
And that's, I guess, I should have pointed that out more and made that more clear that, you know, the deputy clerk should report to the chief deputy, she should report to me.
I think most of us assume that the chief deputy should be capable to take over for the department head when the need arises, and we need to be growing leaders, and that's one way to grow a leader is, so I think we need to pay him appropriately, and somewhat equally. If we need to change that amount to be more in line with other departments.
But then you're back to,
You're increasing the deputy, or the department heads'
right,
salaries, because you start paying them $24 an hour, but I'm only paying, you know, not me, but we're only paying our lowest paid deputy or department head 27. Or, I'm sorry, 25. So you're gonna pay a chief deputy 24 and your lowest paid department head 25.
Yeah,
And I might have been reaching with the 38,000.
and
Like I
maybe,
said, I was comparing it to what my outgoing chief deputy, who had been here a length of time, was making. Because I'm looking at job duties and tasks and what that person's responsible for.
Yeah, your previous chief deputy graduated high school and started here, so she was here like.
we don't want to
Over
run
30
into what several years back we had in the sheriff's department where lieutenants were making almost what the sheriff was making.
We're making more.
They're making more, okay.
Sergeants were making more.
Sorry, okay, so we gotta be careful of getting upside down like that. And maybe we need to, in some way, go with Doug's suggestion, and it's too late this year to do it, but, okay, you've got this budget, how are you gonna divide it up for pay and this and that? And then you'll, as a department head, would have to prioritize salaries versus increases in other things, which I think most department salaries is the biggest thing, but, you know.
Right. My department also brings in revenue from extra work we're taking on with lack of township assessors.
Right.
So that's additional work and burden that's getting put essentially on me. You know, I'm the chief deputy, I'm hoping that person can help,
Yes.
you know,
That's
alleviate some of that. So I mean, what I'm saying is there's money there that we generated revenue from these IGA agreements by taking on the township assessor work.
And that just goes into general fund, I assume.
Yes. Because I don't have an
Is
automation
that showing
fund or
in?
something
Yeah.
that,
Is there,
It has since the first payment she's taken.
is there a mechanism for having an automation fund in that department?
I think that's all regulated by statute.
There is no mechanism for anything like
I'm
that.
just suggesting we're bringing in revenue that was never brought in before by additional works that we're taking on to try to make things fair and equitable.
Why don't you increase your budget by $2,000 a month? Chief deputy. And then if the chief deputy works out, you can get another raise this year.
Like you said, you're in charge.
John's suggestion was raising her budget by $2,000, which then she could determine if she wants for that to go to a chief deputy. They don't, yeah. It does set a precedent.
why don't you just, if you wanna do something, why don't you just agree to move from bumper up to $19.55 an hour, then that's your $2,000 increase. That would be a $35,579. I mean, I'd rather you just outright say, we're gonna approve her chief deputy be $19.50 and say, and here's $2,000, do what you want. Because essentially, you know, we've had other departments try that in the past where they wanted to pay additionally out of even automations and things like that. It was a no-go, so.
Does it trigger
I'll let you
audit
decide.
problems and stuff, or does stuff like that trigger audit problems?
No, not necessarily. I mean, it's more or less setting what the board would like to do as far as managing and regulating how money is spent. You know, just being honest and saying, okay, I appreciate your arguments. This is what was discussed at putting it as, but you know what? We're amenable to go to $19.55. Other than just saying, you know what, let's just give you $2,000 extra, because yes, the auditor will come back and say, okay, well, it was approved for this in your budget, but we see that they are receiving this in pay, and then it creates work on Amanda and I's part as far as producing and giving them, you know, approval minutes and the agreements set forth as to why that person, you know, was agreed at getting $18.45 an hour, but all of a sudden is getting $19.55. I mean, how do I prove that it was just, oh, we told her to add $2,000 onto her budget and that's what she used it for? You know, so, yeah, I mean, it's a paper trail thing. But if that's what you guys wanna do, it's your decision, then somebody needs to say, move her chief deputy.
And that puts it back in the negative, or did we still have?
Well, it's only raising it $2,000, so then that would put you would be down to 25,000 in the black. But I shouldn't be just telling you guys what to do. I give you suggestions, and if that's what you so choose to do as a committee, let me know.
So where would that put this new deputy in relation to other chief deputies who are currently being paid?
Still the lowest, correct?
No, she would be, above our lowest paid deputy would be $18.45, and she would be at $19.55.
There's a current chief deputy at $18, or that's the.
No, there's a current chief deputy at $18. And she would go to $18.45 with the next fiscal year, and there's only 2 people in her office. And that's, I'm not talking about Lacey, I'm talking about in the treasurer's office.
Sure seems to me that it's a very important job in that office with all the moving parts and all the revenue that they generate, take in, verify. Look at the costs we had because that department didn't do their job and we didn't get the reimbursements from the state of Illinois. There was a bunch of money. So having a qualified deputy, you're gonna have to pay him, I mean, some money to be.
Yes, we have to pay people to keep them to stop turnover.
So is there one of you that would like to say, we would like to change Mia, or the assessment chief deputy to $19.55 an hour?
I'm thinking higher than that. Is
Well,
what
then, I need for you guys to say.
You need to verbalize what you're thinking.
I'm just saying.
My suggestion was to do that. The person to start out and then next year if they prove their worth, you can go.
When are you,
I
do you
appreciate that.
have someone, will you be promoting someone in the office, or this will
Yes.
happen
Yes.
with the start
And
of
I
the
won't
new
need to
budget?
hire anybody new, they're currently I have 4 deputy clerks. One of them will be offered a chief deputy position.
Okay, so we're not adding a position, we're just increasing a current position.
That wasn't filled when the previous one resigned in March or April, I don't remember the date.
Dollar amount you thinking?
You said 1975 gives us $2,000?
$19.55 is, which is the $2,000 that John threw out.
I'm just saying that's not much.
That puts her at 35,000.
Yeah, that's for, it's, it just isn't that much money in today's world for somebody
Yeah, but they're
that
good
you
because they love
double on
the
that.
work.
Right, this is somebody that leaves every day and that is like me and is thinking about how to make things better. Doesn't get to leave and go to
Right, right,
drop everything and we'll pick up whatever's on our desk tomorrow.
right, so. But we got some other cheap deputies, it looks like in the $21 range, according to this.
Yeah, but you can't go that high. Because then those people will say, well, I've been here for 10 years.
They're
We're
chief
filling a new
deputies and other-
position.
They're different departments.
We're setting the salary for a vacant position so we can advertise, in essence, for the best qualified person.
Okay,
Because
but
it's vacant right now, right?
Okay,
It's
so
vacant, but I'm
if
gonna
you have
fill it
this-
from
That's what I mean,
within my
but
office.
it's vacant, so we are
So that's
setting
all
the
they're gonna look
salary
at is
for a
the
vacant
title.
position.
and you've been here for 5 years, 10 years, and all of a sudden somebody gets hired in
Mhm.
at the same pay, they're not gonna like it, they're gonna be here wanting raises.
And I appreciate all that. I guess if I sat down and talked to them, I'd talk to them about what value they bring. It doesn't matter how long you've been at the job.
You won't
That's
be
the
talking
problem
to
with
them.
it here, it's not based off of a performance review, it's
Why
based off
isn't it?
of.
Why isn't it?
I don't know, and
Well,
that,
let's
well,
change
a
that
lot of
too.
that is, you have unions.
Well, that's fine.
And that's just why I wanted to bring up the job responsibilities. I think that's
This
integral
is
in,
non-union or union?
this is a non-union
Non-union.
position.
Yeah, so we can set, we can do performance, we can set.
I'd say up to $20.
Not dollars, but like we have to get to that 40,000.
Oh,
Yeah, we're at 35.
But- Did you reverse engineer that for us?
Well, 2,000 man-hour a year, is $20 an hour, is 40,000.
They were 1,850 hours.
Well, they need a job, where do you apply?
30 to 37 a week because of lunch.
No, they work 35 hours.
Because of lunch. Yeah.
I don't know what a bank company is. Which is one. And it's gonna take for her job, it's gonna take a conscientious person.
Well, at some point, we're either gonna have to come up with more revenue.
So $40,000 a year is $21.98. $21.98, which will be higher than your three
Yeah.
existing.
Where I came up with my 38. I just looked at what other deputy clerks were kind of making and, you know, what the job responsibilities are compared to my other deputy clerks.
$36,000 would be $19.78.
And my original was 38. 38.5.
And that would be 20,
$36,000 a year is $19.78, which is below our lowest paid, or I'm sorry, is above our lowest paid.
what was your
Chief
38.5?
That's what I had
And
requested.
that would be what, $20.50, $20.50?
38
Means
38 is $20.88.
I throw out $20 and give her latitude,
I don't know about that.
because it's a year, I mean, it's a year out, and she can do stuff.
$20 an hour.
That puts us below yet, the other, at $20 an hour, that puts us below the longer.
I just look at it as it's a vacant position, trying to hire. So we advertise 20, it's, we can go on to apply.
So at
Yes.
$20 an hour, that's $36,400 a year.
I don't think she can do that. She would-
Our lowest paid
No,
chief
she just
deputy is
from the end, so
But what it's gonna come down to is we're either gonna have to come up with more revenue, or we're gonna have to do with fewer people in the future. So that's gonna be our choices. So, and that's not gonna make anybody happy. We have to start cutting people. So,
We're already stretched pretty thin in some
I know.
departments. In some departments.
right, but if we don't have the money,
Well, you also have raises ranging anywhere from 2.5% to 20%. So that needs to be addressed as well. There has to be some predictability in raises
Well,
among
20%,
elected officials, union employees, and non-union employees. I
Yeah.
tried to make this point in the summer and fell flat, but that's fine. So that would be my point to make here. These non-union employees, it's all over the board, man. There's no predictability for anybody here as far as their salary for what's coming next year. So, you know, what you say is true, but at the same time, somebody's gonna get a 9% raise, another person's gonna get a 2.5% raise. They've been here doing the job. It's not a change in duties or responsibilities, but yet, so that would be a point I would make.
okay.
Yeah.
So, did someone actually say a dollar amount to give to Joe? Is that okay with everybody? Is there any objections to it? Okay, Jill. That would be the change for me.
What about Scott's questions?
all these questions are valid. The problem is yes, if you started talking about them in the beginning of the summer, was there a single board member that came to the meeting and said, look, this is what I'm looking at. I think that these departments need to be paid this, these departments need to pay this department need this. And then the discussion can keep furthering along. You know, anytime anybody asks me of anything, I will provide it to you. I look at comparisons with other counties similar to revenues and populations that come into effect. And, you know, I can present that information. The problem is the committee's supposed to be doing the work. And there has never been really any detailed work in the past few years. It's just been, this is where we're at, okay, we're in the black, let's pass it, move on. So if you want to explore other avenues for salaries and kind of setting guidelines for those, someone needs to generate that movement. It's just like anything else. It's kind of like what Doug's doing with the ordinances for wind and solar, and you know what I mean? Somebody needs to kind of, okay, this is gonna be my avenue to take because I'm on this committee, let's further explore. Until you get to that point, you're gonna have department heads all over the place because it's their request. I take into effect comparison of salaries, like I said.
I was shared between, and this is somebody that's, one of the most well-respected supervisor of assessments. He has developed a spreadsheet to compare, the treasurer, the clerk recorder, and the assessment amongst counties. So I do have some information on that. For Iroquois, it's everything related to Bob, because he started the spreadsheet. So I'd be more than happy to share that information if anybody would like to see it. It's just those three departments that.
Well, we may not be able to do it for this year, but we definitely need to change our ways.
And I think his was developed because, again, as I pointed out in tax committee, there's a committee going task force that's been developed amongst these three offices to get some uniformity in the way that they're paid. I'm sure that's years down the road that that'll happen, but that's where this information was generated for.
Okay. Are there any other issues that need to be resolved?
That change, you're at $24,532 in the black.
There aren't any other issues that we can resolve this year. Is there a motion to approve the budget and send it to the full board?
So moved.
Second.
Aaron's,
Yes.
Paul, Bowers,
Yes.
Geiger,
Yeah.
McGinnis.
Yep.
Watts.
Yes.
Okay. Moving on, claims. Anybody got any questions on the claims?
Yes. It just seemed like Jill or whatever, but we paid, looked like we're paying $38,000 for something like Power Marketing or something for,
There was an issue with them. We hadn't received a bill in quite a while, so, Lacey, well, she reached out after we hadn't received it for 2 months. And they said they were having some problems with their billing, that they would get a bill out as soon as possible. So then it was another month and they still hadn't given them a bill. So then it turns out they had an issue, some sort of glitch or whatever in their invoicing, because we're still getting invoices for these two amounts, but we only owe at one time. So these two amounts are for a couple of months
okay,
together.
so they're in line with,
Yeah,
okay, that's
yeah,
all.
they're a couple months together. And I shouldn't say we, because I'm not. Lacey's working with them because they keep sending us bills for this exact same amount. So we've given copies of the checks and blah, blah, blah. So they're working through some issues with their billing.
The question comes up also then with, Area-wide Technologies, they started a weekly on-site support of $3,000.
It's a combined, multiple weeks.
I wonder if we can, yeah,
The claim, if you pull the claim, it should say on there for what weeks it's for.
and
The
then,
reason it's done it that way is because it's cheaper doing that than calling them.
well, I know that, but what I'm saying is that
Well, and he's
Every
got
week
an
isn't the
excellent
same amount.
understanding of our workings and.
No, every week
Yes,
is
it
same, it's the same.
I don't see another $3,000.
It's $617.50 weekly,
That's what I'm
so
saying.
that's for multiple, 1, 2, 3,
That's what,
multiple weeks.
yeah, I
So
couldn't
if
read
you
that.
pull the claims out that Amanda has right next to you,
I believe
it'll
it.
show you the individualized, weeks that it's for.
I believe you, I just see what the description says and that's.
Yeah, no, that's fine. That's fine.
NetNet then, they're at $6,700, that's a quarterly payment, and that's in
For what?
line, for DevNet?
Yeah.
And that's in line with their, okay. That Clark Dietz, I need to, when you get a bill, can you let me know when you get it? Cause I'll reach out to them and find out for sure what's going on here. I
Okay.
don't know what they think they've done for that, but we'll find out.
Okay, okay.
Any other questions on claims?
Auditor's fees, do we have it figured out going into next year that less than this year hopefully, or maybe?
Hopefully, but it just all depends on, we're still gonna need to do a single audit, so that it's still gonna be higher than just doing a regular audit.
I
And it
didn't
just
take,
depends on the completion of the audit as well.
did you bump up the audit for next year then? Okay, fine, thank you. I'll make a motion for the claims to be paid.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Aaron's,
Yes.
Paul,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yeah.
Geiger.
Yes.
McGinnis.
Yep.
Watts.
Yes.
Very old business. Yes.
Well, technically, this is old new business. Budget. Watsika, we need to have a conversation. Fire departments, police departments, we need to have a conversation. Figure out budget going into FY '26. Need to do that right at the beginning of December would be my suggestion. Needs to be a couple of board members, have Jill to be in the conversation with Watsika. And then we need to figure out fire departments and police departments situation. I know that we're gonna be running into some of this blind. But in order to cover a lot of the conversation that happened during your budget discussion, we've gotta do something so we can keep it from.
I would say,
I'll remind you.
well, make a list of whatever needs to be done and bring it up to the new chairman.
Yep.
Because at this point, it doesn't do much good for John to start negotiating.
This is why I said December, expecting that after your organizational settings, whoever the new is gonna get bombarded. So this is something that I'm making sure that the committee is aware, because whoever the finance chair is probably gonna be the first one that really needs to be involved in all of that.
All right, any other old business, new business?
Just FYI, and since you're on management, I think we're generally okay, because we have LEDs, but Illinois passed the fluorescent light bulb ban effective January 2026.
Can't
So
buy them or can't have them?
can't buy them in Illinois, so we're gonna have to go to Indiana when we buy our fireworks and bring back light bulbs.
Well, we can get over there and sell it and bring it back.
Yeah, just, but I think generally we're okay, but there might be areas that still have, so
Unless they're gonna cut me down someplace that's still
Yeah.
have fluorescent.
just good for the
All right. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll do that.
Charlie, second. All in favor? Aye. All opposed?
I said nah, I said aye, I said nah.